Home Alone. Well, what can be said about Home Alone that hasn't already been said? Released in 1990, this Christmas family comedy classic revolves around 8-year-old Kevin McAllister, played by Macaulay Culkin, who doesn't seem to get along with his family and feels like they always treat him unfairly. And after a hectic attempt to get to an airport, Kevin's family rushed to get a plane to Paris for the Christmas holidays, and in the mayhem they left Kevin behind. At first, Kevin enjoys the perks of having the house to himself and being able to do what he wants without parental supervision. However, two local thugs known as the Wet Bandits, played by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, plan on burgling the McAllister home, to which it's up to Kevin to protect the house as he arms the home with tons of menacing traps in order to defeat the pesky robbers.
So it's time to sit back and eat a bowl of ice cream while watching Angels with Filthy Souls as we look into 10 amazing facts about Home Alone. Let's check it out.
Number 10. It started with Christmas Vacation. Home Alone was based on a script written by 1980s comedy movie maestro John Hughes, who by 1990 had written and directed many memorable movies, such as The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Planes, Trains and Automobiles, to name but just a few. Home Alone was also directed by Chris Columbus, who had some writing credits of his own, having written The Goonies and Gremlins, and would go on to direct Mrs. Doubtfire and the first two Harry Potter movies. And what's interesting about the early production of Home Alone is that Columbus was originally directing a different movie based on a Hughes script, that being National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. However, Columbus just wasn't seeing eye to eye with Christmas Vacation's main star, Chevy Chase. And so the star and director really weren't getting along, and Columbus was just really having a rotten time. So Hughes basically said to Columbus, "I've got another script called Home Alone, so why don't you leave Christmas Vacation and work on that instead?"
So, one golden opportunity later, and this now Chevy Chase-free director, Columbus, could go on to make another Christmas classic instead.
Number 9. Originally it was a Warner Brothers project. Warner Brothers was the company set to produce Home Alone, and also incidentally very nearly terminated the project altogether had it not been for the quick thinking of John Hughes. Warner Brothers gave Home Alone a budget of $10 million, which was pretty low by the standards of the time, especially given the stunts and special effects required for Home Alone. However, thanks to the hindsight of Hughes, he secretly had a meeting with executives at 20th Century Fox, fearing that Home Alone would go over its $10 million budget, to pitch the idea to them, which they were interested. As the production went on, Home Alone's budget rose to $14 million. Warner Brothers insisted that the budget be cut, but the production also insisted that costs could not be cut down, to which Warner Brothers shut the production down, and literally the very next day 20th Century Fox came in and took over, and the rest was history. All thanks to John Hughes. Good going, Hughes.
And given what an enormous hit Home Alone was, makes me wonder if Warner Brothers were kicking themselves over their decision.
Number 8. Macaulay Culkin was cast because he starred in a previous John Hughes film. Director Chris Columbus had supposedly met up with lots of potential kids who would play Kevin, a whopping 200 to be precise. However, John Hughes recommended Macaulay Culkin as he had previously worked with him on Uncle Buck, where he played Miles Russell. And when you watch Uncle Buck, you can kind of see that Miles is like the genesis of Kevin McAllister, the early prototype if you will. In fact, when Hughes wrote the script for Home Alone, he did so with Macaulay Culkin in mind as Kevin. So director Columbus met up with Culkin and agreed that he was perfect for the job, and thus he was cast. And Culkin and Hughes aren't the only ties Home Alone has to Uncle Buck, as John Candy featured in a small role in the film, of which his filming only took 23 hours, and he was only paid a mere $414, but mainly did it as a favour to Hughes. And according to Wikipedia, Candy got paid less than the actor who played the pizza delivery guy. Number 7. Original Marva. When it came time to casting the Wet Bandits, Marv and Harry, the slapstick comedy duo who live a pesky life of crime, originally Robert De Niro and Jon Lovitz were considered for the parts, but thankfully Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern were cast. And then Daniel Stern left the project. Yeah, he actually left, mainly because he found out that the filming schedule was set to go over 6 to 8 weeks without extra pay. So feeling like he was in an unfair deal, he took off. So actor Daniel Roebuck was cast in the role of Marva. However, it was clear to Columbus that Roebuck just didn't have the right kind of chemistry with Joe Pesci, and that something was just lacking, to which Roebuck was let go and Stern was offered the role again, and this time he accepted.
Stern has since said that he can't believe that he nearly passed up the opportunity to star in Home Alone. Yeah.
Number 6. Filmed in a school. Yes, as crazy as it sounds, most of the interior shots of the film, particularly inside the McAllister house, were filmed on sets built on an unused school gymnasium, as a makeshift studio. The outdoor location shooting was done around Chicago, as with most of John Hughes' movies, but in order to build the McAllister's house, along with other sets, the production turned to New Trier High School in Illinois. The location had already been used for filming previous Hughes movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Uncle Buck, so his company already had offices there. So yeah, when you watch Home Alone, it's kind of weird knowing that most of the film was shot in a school gymnasium. Also, when it came to the interior designs, most of the objects and colours seen in the McAllister home are red and green, to go with the Christmas vibe of the movie. Number 5. The idea of John Williams composing seemed unbelievable. Hawaii Five-O and Dallas composer Bruce Broughton was brought on board to score Home Alone, and even his name featured on many early promotional materials. However, Broughton couldn't work on Home Alone as he was too busy scoring Rescuers Down Under, so director Chris Columbus had to find a new composer to score the movie. Columbus's past collaborator Steven Spielberg suggested John Williams, but Columbus thought the idea was so far-fetched as Williams had scored many classic hits, such as Jaws, Star Wars, Superman the Movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and E.T. to name but a few. That, and he felt that with Home Alone's budget there was just no way they could pay for the fee that would be required to hire him. Despite this, a print of Home Alone was sent to Williams, and he fell in love with the movie and agreed to score it, just purely because he liked it so much. His score switches from sounding mischievous to festive and Christmassy to actually quite deep and powerful.
And Home Alone is definitely a better movie thanks to his contribution.
Number 4. The truth about Buzz's girlfriend. In Home Alone, Kevin has a big brother called Buzz, and the two don't get along to say the least. And in one scene, we see Kevin rummaging through Buzz's stuff, where Kevin finds a picture of Buzz's girlfriend, where he famously says,
"Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof."
Well, the person who was photographed to be Buzz's girlfriend was actually played by Home Alone's art director's son. Devin Ratray, who played Buzz, claims that for the gag they didn't want to use a picture of a real young female, as they felt it would be cruel and mean picking on a young girl for her looks, which is essentially what happens in the scene. However, the art director's son was more than willing to dress up and have his photo taken. Not bad considering that one scene has now become a popular meme and famous quote in pop culture in general. The photo of Buzz's girlfriend isn't the only unique prop in the movie, as the chair that nearly rams into Fuller's face during the chaotic dinner scene was actually made of rubber, and if you look at the scene carefully, you can clearly see it has bounce to it.
I guess that Fuller can't be enjoying all that Pepsi if he's gonna get smacked in the face with real chairs.
Number 3. The truth about angels with filthy souls. So we see that when Kevin's parents aren't around, he likes to watch an old gangster movie called Angels with Filthy Souls, which the McAllisters own on video, alongside their Bruce Springsteen and Rolling Stones VHS collection. Angels with Filthy Souls shows an argument between two gangsters, where the boss, Johnny, shoots down one of his goons called Snakes. The movie is so brutal, it actually terrorizes Kevin. So what is this movie and where does it come from? Well, it doesn't exist. It was made for Home Alone, a movie within a movie. However, the movie is actually a parody of a real 1938 gangster movie called Angels with Dirty Faces. The sequence was shot using black and white negative film in order to give it an authentic 1930s and 1940s look, and all the props that were seen around the room in that scene are authentic from that era. So yeah, they really went above and beyond with making this movie within a movie seem like an authentic 1940s gangster picture.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
And the sequence was so popular, they made more scenes for the Home Alone sequel, only this time the gangster movie was called Angels with Filthier Souls.
Number 2, deleted scenes. There are actually quite a few deleted scenes that were cut from the final film, only to be left on the cutting room floor, and I'll go through some of the ones that stood out to me. A scene between Marv and Harry that's surprisingly quite serious and somber, where Harry tells Marv that he hates Christmas because it's lost its true meaning and has become cynical, which is why he robs homes at Christmas. This actually humanizes Harry and makes him more of a Grinch type character, rather than a slapstick villain. And I guess if the scene was left in, it would have made Harry more sympathetic. So when he's getting his ass kicked, the viewer probably wouldn't be laughing but would be just thinking, come on, why are you being so mean? He just needs to find the true meaning of Christmas again. So yeah, I can understand it being cut, as it goes against the whole slapstick Looney Tunes approach of the movie. Another scene I really like and kind of wish they left in the movie is a shot of the McAllister family trying to sleep in Paris, but are wide awake because they are worried about Kevin. Except for Buzz, who seems to have no problem getting some shut-eye. The scene is followed by a scene where Kevin's sister comforts the dad, where we get a dialogue about how families shouldn't fight and how Christmas is all about family. It's a bit preachy, but okay. And there are a lot of deleted scenes which shows just how cruel Buzz is. Like, there are some scenes that makes this kid look really mean. Another interesting scene is where we see the McAllisters' Paris-based cousins waiting for them at an airport, where they are greeting them with a welcome to Paris sign that they have made, only to have the McAllister family run through the sign. I didn't even know the McAllisters had Paris-based cousins till I watched this scene. Unless there was a bit of dialogue at the start which explained, but yeah, went over my head. So before we get to number 1, here are some bonus facts. Bonus number 1, an all shook up extra. In a scene where Kevin's mother is in an airport at the desk, many have noticed that one of the extras looks a little bit like Elvis, adding to the conspiracy theory that Elvis isn't dead and is still alive. I remember reading group forums and articles years ago where some people legit think that this guy here is the king. So what do you guys think? Did Elvis fake his death only to become a background extra on Home Alone? Bonus number 2, Joe Pesci gets bitey. Macaulay Culkin claims that while filming the scene where the wet bandits capture Kevin and hang him up on the door hook, where Joe Pesci's Harry character says he is going to bite all of Kevin's fingers off, while practicing for that scene, Pesci actually bit him. Culkin claims that to this day he still has a scar on his finger, but he seems to be totally fine with the ordeal and is proud of his, quote, Joe Pesci scar. And he also explains that he believes that Pesci didn't mean to actually bite him. Bonus number 3, Daniel Stern's 8-legged friend. Daniel Stern said that in the scene where Kevin puts a tarantula on his face, it was meant to be a mechanical spider. However, the day that Stern turned up for filming, he was informed that the mechanical tarantula didn't look right, so they are going to go with a real one instead. When Stern wanted some assurance and asked if the poisonous stinger was taken out, so he, won't die, he was told no, as that would kill the tarantula. So that scream Stern gives off when the spider is on his face is legit. Number 1, Home Alone was number 1 in the box office for 12 weeks. Needless to say that when Home Alone came out, it was a massive hit and made $476 million on an $18 million budget, which are insane numbers. Home Alone even made it to the Guinness World Records for highest earning live action comedy. Home Alone also became the 3rd highest grossing film of its time, only behind E.T. and Star Wars. And in the movie industry, the term Home Alone was invented, meaning that when a movie has a massive breakout success that no one really saw coming. However, not all was good upon its release. Some critics weren't too keen on the movie's cartoon style of violence, with Entertainment Weekly calling it sadistic. But to me, its violence is more done in the tradition of Looney Tunes cartoons than, say, a Saw film. But regardless, Home Alone has gone on to become a treasured Christmas classic adored by many, and for good reason.
Well, that was my look into Home Alone, the movie that teaches us that family is the most important part of Christmas. That, and you don't want to get on the bad side of Kevin McAllister. He will mess you up with his booby traps of doom. But regardless, it's easy to see why it's gone on to become a treasured classic.
And in addition to that, some of the facts I discovered from this video I got from the Home Alone episode of the movies that made us on Netflix. So if you're a fan of Home Alone, then definitely check that out. It is really interesting and you really do learn a lot about the film.
Anyway, I'm Minty, and Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. And a Happy New Year.